We're here to talk about the case of Dominick Black. Enough of Kyle Rittenhouse, at least for the moment. Dominick is facing some serious charges of his own. Let's go ahead and just read quickly just a reminder here of the situation. And the title says here, Wisconsin teen charged with buying rifle for Kyle Rittenhouse. And if we go down a little bit further, it says a 19-year-old Wisconsin man was charged with felony weapons offenses for allegedly purchasing the AR-style rifle that 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse is accused of using to kill two people during protests in Kenosha over the summer. This is not accurate. He is not being charged with felonies for the purchase of the rifle. You know, at some point, reporters will figure this thing out. Says Dominick Black was charged last week with 2 counts of intentionally giving a dangerous weapon to a minor. Gee, I don't see anything in there about a purchase. Okay. Giving a dangerous weapon to a minor, causing death according to court records released following a court hearing on Monday. He faces up to 25 years in prison if convicted on both counts. So Dominick Black is going to be scared. He's 19 years old. This is a young kid. And a lot of you pro-Kyles out there were out there attacking him for his testimony. Should be ashamed of yourselves. You didn't understand the situation he was in. But that's for another video. In fact, I already made it. Go and watch my other video in defense of Dominick Black and get straightened out on a thing or two. Now, there's one thing that's important to talk about here. First of all, is the straw purchase. It does say here for allegedly purchasing the AR-style rifle. However, Wisconsin law doesn't prohibit a straw purchase of a rifle and giving it to somebody if by giving it to that person, he is only committing a misdemeanor. In other words, the person who receives the weapon now, his possession of the weapon is only a misdemeanor. I went over this in another video. Therefore, there are no state charges for a straw purchase in Wisconsin because in Wisconsin, the purchase of the rifle for Kyle Rittenhouse was legal. Now, that's not true for the feds. The feds could come in and file straw purchase charges against Dominick Black, and of course, they would bring in Kyle Rittenhouse in a conspiracy thing, so they're not out of the woods no matter what happens in today's trial. However, I have reason to believe that the feds probably won't do this, but whatever. So let's make sure that we are straight on something. Dominick Black is not facing. Okay, so here are the charges that Dominick Black is facing. There are 2 of them. 948-62C, they're the same. Intent to sell dangerous weapon to a person under the age of 18. It's a felony H because the weapon was also used to shoot to death 2 people. Whether Kyle was to blame for that or not is not really relevant right now. So he's facing 2 charges because of the 2 people. Yes, it's kind of weird. Dominick Black's attorney has filed a motion to have this reduced to only 1 count. I don't think that's going to be successful. If it has been decided yet, I don't know. Whatever the case, this is the statute under which Dominick Black is being charged. Let's go read it. And we all know it very well. 948.60, possession of a dangerous weapon by a person under 18. I should correct myself. I said we all know it really well. The pro-Kyles do. The anti-Kyles have no idea what the hell they're talking about. They've only read the very first part of it. They haven't read the whole thing. They wouldn't understand it even if they did read it. But again, this is 948.60, and we have Section 1, which defines a dangerous weapon. Let's move down. 948.62, number 2. Part A. Any person under 18 years of age who possesses or goes armed with a dangerous weapon is guilty of a Class A misdemeanor. Of course, this doesn't apply to Dominick Black. It applies to Kyle Rittenhouse. But since Dominick Black gave the gun to Kyle, there's an issue here. 948.62b, Part B, except as provided in paragraph C, any person who intentionally sells, loans, or gives a dangerous weapon to a person under 18 years of age is guilty of a Class I felony, and that does apply to Dominick Black. 948.62c, whoever violates paragraph B, which is the one we just read, is guilty of a Class H felony if the person under 18 years of age under paragraph B discharges the firearm and the discharge causes death to himself, herself, or another. And that certainly applies to Dominick Black because Kyle ended up shooting to death 2 people. Okay, we won't worry about D, but let's go to 948.63.3. This section does not apply to a person under 18 years of age who possesses or is armed with a dangerous weapon when the dangerous weapon is being used in target practice. Let's not worry about that one. Paragraph B, this subsection does not apply to a person under 18 years of age who is a member of the armed forces. Don't need to worry about that one. But 948.63c states this section applies only to a person under 18 years of age who possesses or is armed with a rifle or a shotgun if the person is in violation of Section 941.28, Kyle is not, or is not in compliance with subsections 29.304 and 29.593. We've been through this, and the judge agreed that subsection C allowed Kyle to legally possess the rifle that day. However, if you continue to read, it states, this section applies only to an adult who transfers a firearm to a person under 18 years of age, Dominick giving the gun to Kyle, if the person under 18 years of age is not in compliance with subsection 29.304, 29.593, or to an adult who is in violation, and we don't have to care about that one. So subsections 29.304 and 29.593 still apply. Kyle is in compliance with subsections 29.304 and 29.593, which is the reason why the judge threw out the gun charge. And since Kyle is in compliance with these 2 subsections, then Dominick Black has not broken a law by giving the gun to Kyle. It says again, one more time, this section, 948.60, applies only to an adult who transforms a firearm to a person under 18 years of age if the person under 18 is not in compliance, but Kyle was. Therefore, these 2 charges will need to be dropped, in my opinion. I cannot see Dominick Black being charged with these 2 offenses if Kyle Rittenhouse has been deemed legally able to possess the rifle. A question that might come up is, does Dominick Black face federal charges? Well, not for the transfer of possession of the rifle to Kyle. That's a state law. The feds don't have any such thing. But what about the straw purchase? The feds do control that. And the question now becomes, if the person is legally allowed to possess the rifle and I file a form that basically makes it look like I'm buying the gun for myself, but I give it to my friend, have I broken the law? And the answer is yes. And here we'll just go ahead and read this. Federal straw purchase gun law upheld by Supreme Court. It says, a federal gun law on straw purchases has been upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court, preventing buyers from purchasing a gun just to transfer to someone else. In a 5-4 decision, the High Court determined that even if the ultimate recipient of the firearm is legally permitted to own a gun, federal laws intended to prevent sham transactions, known as straw purchases, are still valid. Can gun buyers still purchase guns as gifts without violating federal law? Well, that brings up the case of Abramsky versus the United States. And I won't read this, but what happened was Abramsky has an uncle. And Abramsky himself is a police officer, so he gets a discount on guns. So he wants to get a gun for his uncle. He uses his own police discount to get the gun cheaper. Of course, that requires filling out the form and making it look like you're buying the gun for yourself. Abramsky argued that his uncle is perfectly allowed to own a gun, so what's the harm? Well, the Supreme Court upheld the fact that even though the gun was a gift to somebody who was legally allowed to own the gun, it was still a straw purchase and therefore still illegal. Therefore, the fact that Kyle Rittenhouse can legally possess the rifle doesn't mean that Dominick Black can buy him a rifle without violating federal law. And I'm not going to go into the whole deal about, well, did he really buy the gun for Kyle? He bought the gun. He was going to transfer it to Kyle when Kyle turned 18. I'm not sure how the courts will look at that. Is that really a straw purchase when you don't give possession of the rifle to your friend? And of course, Kyle did take possession of the rifle that night in Kenosha. That muddies the waters even more. That's going to have to be worked out later if the feds press charges. Okay, so just to make sure, straw purchase, legal in Wisconsin. In this instant, the transfer of possession to Kyle was illegal, at least on the surface of it, but now it looks like those charges will have to be dropped. As far as the feds are concerned, giving the gun to Kyle did not violate any federal laws. The straw purchase probably did. Although, again, we'll have to see how the court views what took place in light of the law. Now, let's suppose that Dominick Black is going to be in trouble here. Let's suppose that the feds come in, they press charges against Dominick, and let's say they win the day and they get a conviction of Dominick Black. What are the likely penalties? Well, the answer is probably not much. This is the actual court decision of Abramsky versus the United States. And let me go ahead and let's see what happened to him. It says here, Abramsky entered a conditional guilty plea, reserving his right to challenge the rulings. The district court then sentenced him to 5 years of probation on each count, running concurrently. So he basically got 5 years of probation. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. This was really a very low-level crime. I mean, nobody was hurt. There was no ill intent or anything like that. What about the case of Kyle where people were shot and all that? What are the penalties going to be for that? But again, probably not much. We have a much, much more serious case to look at here in Utah. And the title says, Man Who Loaned Gun to Lauren McCluskey's Killer Sentenced to 3 years supervision. What happened here? Well, the man in the picture received a gun through a straw purchase from another person who's named Emily Lady. And he's a felon. He was not allowed to possess a gun, so she bought the gun for him and gave it to him. He then turned around and gave the gun to another dude who went and shot his girlfriend and then killed himself. So you can imagine the seriousness of this crime. Keep in mind, Emily Lady, when she bought the gun for this guy, she didn't store it at her apartment away from him with the understanding that, well, once he clears himself of all these charges, then I'll transfer ownership, much like what was said in the Kyle Rittenhouse case. She handed him the gun after they got out of the store. He picked it out, she bought it for him, and then gave him the gun for him to keep. And then, of course, he gave the gun to somebody else who ended up shooting somebody and then killing himself. So what happened to them? Well, this man is named Nathan Vogel. And if we go down here, and if you remember from the title, he was sentenced to 3 years supervision. It says, Nathan Vogel was sentenced to 3 years of supervised release after pleading guilty to making a false statement during the purchase of a firearm. He will receive credit for the time he has already served, Judge Tenna Campbell said. Okay. What about the person who did the straw purchase for him? That's more like Dominick Black, right? What happened to Sarah Emily Lady? Well, Lady, who purchased the gun for Vogel, was also charged in March with making a false statement during the acquisition of a firearm and conspiracy. Now, the conspiracy was her working with Nathan Vogel to do this. Her case will be diverted for 18 months, after which it may be dismissed if she complies with the diversion terms and does not commit another crime during that time. She's not going to jail either. So what is the likely sentence for Dominick Black, even if he's convicted? Probation. And you may be wondering, well, that's crazy. Why? Well, this is kind of what probation was meant for. Dominick Black is only 19. He's never been in trouble. Furthermore, he meant no harm. He had no way of knowing this was going to happen. By all accounts, He's a pretty good kid. Why would you send him to prison? What would you be accomplishing by doing that? I can't imagine how that could do anything but really hurt. Now, he could come out a hardened criminal if he serves any time in prison. There's no need for it. I think the defense would have a very easy time convincing a judge that probation is almost certainly the best option here. And I think the prosecution probably wouldn't really complain about it too much. Like my video and subscribe to my channel. And by the way, donate to Dominick Black's defense fund. Cut this silly crap about, well, he read it out, Kyle. Come on. He's 19 years old and he's facing serious charges. I don't blame him one bit, and I covered that in another video.